Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cut and Splice. This is Matt,
This is Jason.
And this is Gil.
and this time around, we are talking about the 2006 film The Lives of Others, directed by Florian Henkel von Donnersmarck. Yeah, that's one person's name. And uh, this is the movie that won the Best Foreign Language Film Oscar in 2006. It is about a Stasi officer in 1984 in East Berlin surveilling a playwright and how this experience changes not only the Stasi officer's life, but the life of the playwright and his lover, girlfriend, and actress. And yeah, it's basically one of those movies that shocked the world. And I've been pushing for this for a while, and as parameters as preface, I have never talked about this movie without crying. And uh, so if you hear me choking up, it's just kind of normal. But I'll just toss it over to the guys, and you guys can start uh, unpacking your thoughts.
Well, just to diffuse things a bit, I after I watched this movie with Diana because I thought it would interest her, and then maybe she'll listen to the episode. And when we finished it, I told her, well, I guess you could see why Matt might have a hard on for this movie, and the whole freedom thing and libertarian thing, and she was like, what is with you guys and like sexual you know, like
That's
I was
on
like,
you. We didn't say that.
yeah, exactly. I was like, well, I mean, it is a guy thing, and obviously it's certain kind of guys, and I'm not the type that actually says that, but it's just something that especially sometimes comedians might say. It's just it's language that just illustrates in an amusing way, how much somebody is excited about something. It's just funnier than saying like he's really into it.
Oh, in your
Anyway,
defense, a lot of people do say that.
yeah, it's definitely it's impolite language, but
Sure.
I just found it appropriate, especially because Matt is very big on using sexual
Yeah.
yeah analogies, or I don't know, similes, whatever. Um, in any case, yeah, Jason, I guess you guys watched this one together, huh?
Yeah. First
A
time,
date.
I think, right? Isn't this the first time that we've watched something where either of us were in the same room since probably, um, well, certainly since we started the podcast.
No, Alita. We watched Alita.
Oh, yes, that's
Yeah,
right. Okay, so second
yeah.
time. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I guess this was the first time you saw it.
I had never seen this movie, which is really surprising because it's right up my alley. I was telling Matt that I was pretty sure I was always getting it mixed up with some other movie that was made right around the same time, and I just never saw it. Matt, of course, brought it up many times, and I always meant to see it. I just never really did, and then we watched it. He happened to be over here in Las Vegas, and we he had access to the Criterion channel or something like that, so we were able to watch it here at my house after fiddling around with my sound system.
Hmm. Oh, I thought you also have as a DVD, Matt. But in anywho, um, but yeah, might as well be like an HD and stuff, I guess, with the Criterion. So might as well watch it in streaming if you got the subscription.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, What was your impression, Jason? The movie?
I really liked it. It's sad and it's very good. I'm pretty sure I had read the synopsis before, and obviously the title is kind of telling. And just, I don't know, obviously I've talked to Matt about it in vague terms and stuff, so I kind of knew what it was about. But I didn't expect it to go the way that it did, and we could talk about that, of course, later. But it's just, I mean, obviously, talking about it with Matt, I had fairly high expectations for it, but yeah, it's a really good movie.
Yeah, it's my impression of it is that it's a very conventional foreign film. It's not one of those movies that you dread. It's like, oh, the pacing is going to be really weird and the compositions are going to be weird. It's actually a very conventional movie. It's very um almost like Hollywood like, but more like in an indie movie sort of sense. And the pacing is a little bit on the slow side, but there's nothing about it that's that it makes it the reason why I'm saying it, it's more easily digestible too.
Yeah, it's not boring.
It's not boring, exactly. Like it definitely has a decent pace, and then yes, the story is fairly incredible. It's obviously exposes you, and it would be much better than just having Americans do a German accent, because obviously you can make that movie, but this is much better because it kind of really places you in that time and place, and get a sense of what was the whole East Germany, West Germany thing. So it definitely is very transporting in that sense, and it kind of reminded me of Fahrenheit 451 in a way, a non-sci-fi version of that. But yeah, it's definitely solid. But I will say it's not anything outrageously like high as far as like what I would rate it. I mean, I gave it an 8 back then, and I would probably stick to that. I think I might have liked it even better now, or I'm not sure. It was actually pretty impressive the first time I saw it as well. So it would be tough for me to inch it to a 9 just because it is fairly conventional in the way that it's made. But yeah, but it's a solid story. It's definitely worth the watch. Yeah.
I thought of it as like a 7.5 or an 8, but then the ending was really solid, I felt, and I thought that definitely solidified it as a good solid 8.
Well, and for me, it's basically around a 9.5. But and the ending is a large portion of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this this is a movie that just kind of wrecked me from the moment that I saw it. And and the funny thing is, the context of this was, I saw Pan's Labyrinth, and that came out the same year.
Yeah.
And I saw Pan's Labyrinth before the Oscars, and The Lives of Others beat Pan's Labyrinth for the best foreign language film. And my immediate reaction to that was, what the fuck are the Oscars doing?
Yeah. Understandable.
There is no way that there's a movie out there that's better than Pan's Labyrinth in this category. And then a week later, I saw The Lives of Others, and it was just like, shit. Yeah. The Oscars got it right. And I mean, the Oscars have got a lot wrong, since then, but I still stand by that decision that this is a movie that actually deserved that attention and that consideration, and um that people really needed to kind of look at this. And uh yeah, I'm glad that the Academy made the decision that they made. So yeah, I'll
Yeah.
I'll leave it there.
I rated Pan's Labyrinth also an 8. And you know what this reminds me of? A different Pan's Labyrinth. What is the competition or whatnot? When it won for best cinematography over Children of Men, which obviously should have won best cinematography.
Yeah.
I mean, it's debatable, but it's the same thing with these two movies as far as the movie quality versus cinematography. Is that um, this movie has a better story. Pan's Labyrinth is better made. Like the story is told better. It's just that it's a lesser story. And I guess it's the old say. I'm saying that it all really comes down to story. You can shoot a movie on your phone, and if the story is really good, it's going to be captivating. It's going to be, yes, having flourishes and having sophistication to the filmmaking aspects of it adds to it. But at the end of the day, the better story is going to win, even if it's done very simply. Not that this was I'm putting too much weight on this whole conventional thing. It's still like
You're not saying it was
it's not
simplistic or anything.
not simplistic at all. It was interesting, like the choice of lenses, the whole hawk, it's very jarring at sometimes. The whole blurry edges of the type of lenses that they were using was interesting. Which interestingly, I think I just saw a movie. Yeah, the movie Adam Sandler, the basketball movie Hustle. they they also that's on Netflix. They also use those lenses, and it's which makes sense now, especially with digital, because you want to kind of blur out the image as much as possible. But in this, it was borderline distracting. But I felt like it was a good choice for this, because if you're trying to have this, this micro focus on these people, like all their lives are on focus, so having blurry edges and minimum focus in the middle sort of like played well into it. So there's some visual choices that I think suit the movie, for sure. So yeah, but still, I mean, Pan's Labyrinth is just brilliantly made, like the lighting, the design, yeah, for sure. But the story is, yeah, it's like Alice in Wonderland with Nazis. Only not as
They're
good.
fascists. They're not Nazis, I don't think.
Yeah, fascist Nazis. Yeah,
communists. Just throwing this out there because, like, why not? We're talking about it. Personally, I would put Pan's Labyrinth at like a low 9. So I would think it's just a little bit better than this movie. Um, Although this movie is so good that I would not take issue with the Oscars or anyone saying that this is a better film.
yeah, especially the highlight of story, because Pan's Labyrinth got the cinematography, which
Is incredible. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, yeah. I guess should we just go to spoilers, because it seems like
Yeah.
there's a lot to be
Oh,
said.
I was just gonna say I
Before
I
we
don't see any reason
accidentally
why
spoil
not.
it.
I haven't seen any of Florian's other films. I think it's worth mentioning that this was his first film, which is impressive.
Oh yeah, I didn't know. I think I knew that back then, but forgot.
I just looked at it right now. He's only made 3 films, and this was his first. That's really impressive. And then totally unrelated, I just was scrolling past his page here, and it says that he is the director. That is Florian. I'm not even going to bother saying his last name. He is 6 feet 8.5 inches tall, And I was like, that can't be right. And I went and clicked on a picture of him, and there's a picture of him on the set directing Angelina Jolie and Johnny Depp, and he is towering over them. Like the tops of their heads don't even get to his shoulders.
Yeah.
6'8.5" tall. Dude's a monster. Anyway, just felt like mentioning that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is unfortunate that, so far as I can tell, he really hasn't had his sophomore swing at this. I mean, like, The Lives of Others is a masterpiece, and his follow-up was The Tourist,
Didn't
and
see it.
yeah, he just doesn't seem like he's bounced back, and it sucks because, I mean, The Lives of Others uh is a movie that we really should regard with a certain amount of reverence. I mean, this is a hard hitting, to the ground. Like, this is a rough movie, but it's a good movie.
Yeah.
And he just hasn't done anything apparently since 2006 that's on the same level.
I think that's partially it could be related to how conventional this movie is. He's an adequate filmmaker, and he just stumbled onto a fantastic story. Like, he just came up with this concept, and you can't go wrong. Like, unless you completely suck
Botch
up
it.
the production,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a timeless movie. It's a very timeless subject, and it's obviously it's easy to mess up. There's no doubt. The guy, I always disclaim this. The guy, I'm sure, is extremely talented, and it's too bad he hasn't done more movies. But maybe he's just being cautious. He's trying to find the right project. Maybe The Tourist was like too quick. Funny enough, just today, I don't know how this happened, but I stumbled on one of those, like, the reels, like TikTok type of video that's on on Facebook.
Yeah.
And there was a scene from The Tourist. I think something with Johnny Depp, like, hitting on um, Angelina Jolie, or like she teaches him how to hit on a woman or something. I was like, it's funny that we're talking about this today, but in any case, but yeah, it seems like that movie got pretty bad reviews and it was pretty forgettable. But yeah, he's got good story instincts, so hopefully he makes another good movie. But
It looks like writing, producing, and directing, his last project was his last film in 2018, and hasn't done anything since. So it's like we're coming up on 5 years now.
yeah, and some people do other stuff that he might be doing,
Yeah,
theater, or who knows. Like, you never know. Like, yeah,
you can't tell everything from a IMDb profile.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's so what's his name? The guy who I keep forgetting his name. The guy who did the In Bruges.
McDonald or something.
McDonald, yeah. So he takes like 5 years between movies because he does a lot of theater and stuff. And,
oh, interesting.
Yeah. Just other stuff. Cool. So yeah, I guess we're in the spoilers now. So Matt, do you want to do the honors of speaking about how consequential this movie is?
Sure. I mean, the last line of the movie cannot be overlooked. When Ulrich Muir, I'm probably mispronouncing his name. By the way, the actor died only about a year after the movie was released.
Well, he was like pretty young, no?
He was 54.
Yeah.
and he was actually a pretty I didn't know this until pretty late that he was actually somebody who spent a lot of his life as an anti-communist activist.
Hmm.
And so his last major role sorry was playing a Stasi officer under the communist regime. And the last line that he says is, "No, this is for me."
Yeah.
That kills me every time.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I just made that connection. I didn't realize that it's also an anti-communist statement. Obviously, it's related to the fact that it's like it's not for someone else, it's for him, and then it's also double meaning that it was written about him, but it's a triple meaning with like this is not a communal thing. It's something that I did, and I deserve the credit.
yeah,
Or, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, so triple meaning. I missed the triple one. I guess I'm not as anti-communist to detect that.
Yeah, it's I thought it was really interesting because the um at the end there's a point where it fast forwards in time, jumps ahead to several years after the climax of the film, and the writer, um, Mr. Sebastian Koch, I believe is the actor.
yeah,
He through a series of events discovers what exactly happened and kind of unravels the mystery for himself. We all know what happened, but he now discovers what happens and goes to tell, or like to confront and talk to this guy who basically saved his life and did so many things, did risk so much for him. And I was like, when he sees him on the street, he doesn't say anything to him, he just lets him go. And I was like, what the heck? And I was like really frustrated until like moments later when they again jump ahead, and then he wrote a whole book about it. And I was like, oh man, it's such a good ending. Like, I was like, it's perfect.
Yeah, definitely the last sequence, like the last few sequences of when he realizes that he was um surveilled, and then he goes to the records and does all the digging. That sequence definitely is where the movie really shines. Like it makes all the right, it takes all the right steps to really wrap it all together, for sure. It's there's definitely more issues throughout the movie. No, not issues, but there's less of that similar sophistication. But it makes
Yes.
and it makes sense because it makes sense that in the end there's going to be all these like weaving together, because that's the climax. And if it's a movie
Yeah.
that's not action based, the climax can
It needs to
be
be interesting.
like a yeah like an investigation, or not investigation, but this detective
Yeah.
like sequence. Yeah, so it's kind of like a crescendo of events that leads up to it.
I personally didn't have anything really um groundbreaking to mention. I just had a bunch of really good moments that I liked in the movie. Like the I thought they really do a good job showing um how the society they're in just leaves the actress woman with no good choices to make. I mean, she's probably one of the people that are suffering the least in that society, given that she's in a state of kind of celebrity, and she's got some privileges she can kind of work off of and stuff like that. She's got a drug habit that she's supporting and stuff like that. But it's just like it's they just do a good job really showing it how she's just kind of trapped between what she wants and her life with the writer and this horrible uh political leader, I guess. Is that what he is? Is he, or he's just like a, what is that guy exactly? What's his job? Is he just like a communist
He was a minister, so
minister of something?
basically,
So yeah,
yeah. Uh,
like a political leader,
Politician.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a
uh,
powerful political figure.
Part of the ruling party.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
ruling party. Yeah. So in any case, he's just, he's just this disgusting character, and he's doing the whole, you know, I'm in a place of authority, and I've met this slightly famous, woman, and he's making it very clear that he wants a relationship with her. And when he starts kind of forcing himself on her, he's always careful to ask, like, are you sure do you want me to stop? Do you want me to not do this? But he knows just as well as she does that she's not really in a position to really stop him in any way. And it's really disgusting, to watch. And it's very powerful scenes. And then, you kind of, there's moments throughout the whole thing where you feel like maybe she's out from under him now. Maybe they're kind of gotten to a point where they can kind of live their life now. And it's like, no, this fat bastard's going to keep coming back, and it's just, he reminded me of the Austin Powers character, only far more realistic and grounded.
Yeah, that fat bastard. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good
That's
comparison.
yeah. It was not Irish, or
No.
yeah. But yeah, it's just it was that was really powerful. I thought Sebastian Koch was really good. I wasn't sure if I'd ever seen him in anything else, and I looked it up, and I think I have seen it. Oh, Bridge of Spies he was in, and I remember him being good in that, but I can barely remember the details of that movie. I just mostly remember the end of it. And there's one more that I'd seen him, because I didn't see the Danish Girl. Um, what was it? I definitely started watching the fifth Die Hard movie, but it is practically unwatchable, so I didn't get through that one. Oh yeah, the same year as this movie, he was in Black Book, the Paul Verhoeven one, and
yeah.
that he's pretty good in that.
I feel like I'm in a weird spot because I like to keep this this channel free of politics. Yeah,
Okay.
just
We've failed from time to time, but
yeah. I mean,
True.
I would like to just talk about movies, but okay, my relationship with this movie, and I shit you not, was um what, 7 years ago. I just put it out there like, hey, bunch of libertarians, we're going to show the lives of others, and it's a 2.5 hour long German movie,
With
and
subtitles.
yeah,
well, not all the other German movies that don't have subtitles.
Well,
yeah, and I was expecting nobody to show up, and everybody showed up.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
And
like I said, libertarians, they have a, you know, something bulging, let's just say, for
we have
freedoms.
Oh, Gil.
we have a boner for movies that are ethically correct.
Yeah,
And
I'm not saying it's not ethically correct, for sure. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, this is a movie that was just done really well. It was not perfectly done, but you know, it's just one of those things where you can put it into your you can put it into the category of a movie that was a story that needed to be told that nobody else was telling.
Which, by the way, it's important to note, I guess we didn't say it in the review part, but it's not based on a true story, I don't believe. It's kind of like a concoction just to make a point. But there has been stories in the past about people doing the right things. Maybe not necessarily people that were of the party in power, but at least like you know other citizens, especially like in the Holocaust, a lot of stories of like people that helped Jews and things like that. But yeah, but I'm sure there's also examples of some people that just had a lot of that evilness sitting on their conscience, and maybe some of them didn't do as badly as others, and hurting and affecting badly the people that they were overseeing. That's very possible.
Yeah.
Okay, one moment in the movie that will always kill me is when Sebastian Koch, George Dryman, the author, uh, and it's just in voiceover, talks about how the German government decided to not actually report suicides
Oh,
anymore,
yeah.
and that they would just define them as self-murder. It strains me to think of anybody who has actually talked about that in with that kind of honesty.
It's very similar to the really terrible stuff you hear about some of the stuff in like North Korea, or other stories from the communist time in Russia and stuff like that.
Yeah, obviously, because even now in Russia, I mean,
Yeah, yeah, even
you
now.
try to control information. China too.
Yeah,
You
it's
want to
scary.
control certain pieces of information to limit issues with the populace. I mean, there's no
Yeah.
doubt that this is just a very simple example of that. It's just that it's and what this is what I would say about this movie is, if anything else, this guy should be writing more scripts. I don't know if he's got more credits
Yeah.
with screenwriting, but the screenwriting is the star of this movie. The there's so many of these planted seeds that pay off later on. It's very satisfying, and they're not done to a cliche extent, like a gun in the beginning is used in the end, stuff like that. There's a lot of like small things, um, like there's the whole discussion of suicide, and what happens in the end? She commits suicide.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
poetic.
I
She
didn't
runs
even
in
think
front
about
of the
that. Yeah.
yeah. So a lot of these like little things that the guy who tells the joke, the anti party joke,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and there's that whole tense scene. What's your badge? Like blah blah blah, your
Yeah,
section, and then he like kind of ha 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 fool you, but then in the last scene, or not the
Yeah.
last scene, but the scene where we
He's
see
there too.
he's behind them, like he's behind Ulrich in the whatever the mail opening mail scene. Like he
yeah,
did end up demoting him and putting
Yeah.
him
He
like
put it he
in
put
the
him in like the
basement.
worst job.
Yeah, which is where he put Ulrich, like once Weasler, once he pretty much suspected that he, and this is the one question that I had is about this. Yeah, and there's a few other of these tricks which I really liked, but as far as wouldn't you think? I mean, even though he didn't have clear cut evidence of what exactly happened, he essentially in the end knew that the guy wrote the piece, he just didn't have proof, and that Weasler basically falsified the records, why would he just demote him? Like, why wouldn't he just put them both in jail? I mean, it's a communist government. Why do they need proof?
I don't know.
Huh.
I mean,
Like,
maybe he didn't have enough proof, but he had enough that he could demote him, but he didn't want to go full blownsies, you know?
yeah, it's just an interesting question. I mean,
It is.
I think they even mentioned at some point in the movie that they really don't need any cause to make people disappear. Like communist
Yeah.
regimes make people disappear all the time. You can assassinate people. There's many ways to, like, if he really knows that this writer wrote this article, which basically, but obviously, the writer, I can almost can see him thinking, well, his writer friends know that he wrote it, so if I kill him or put him in jail without proof, then they can further tarnish the party, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as like Weasler, like, I don't know why he didn't come to a much worse, like, because he's basically committed treason. I mean, that's like and even lesser regimes, that would be like being put to death.
When it comes to the writer, just real quick, the I, like you said, I agree with you. It's weird that he's plays it so he doesn't go full all out on the other character and just kill him or get rid of him or something. But I'm thinking maybe with him it was because I guess he was his boss, but maybe he kind of also saw him as a little bit of a friend or something. I don't know. They went to the theater together. But I was going to say, as far as the other character, the writer, I can see why he was hesitant to do anything without absolute proof, just because in the beginning he's when what's the name of the main character?
Well, Weisslein?
Weisler, yeah. When Weisler, whatever, he's the first one that tells his boss, "Hey, you should put somebody on this guy. Like he's a problem," kind of thing or whatever.
Yeah.
And he responds like with like he's like, "No, no, no, no." He's like, not only does he believe that the author is loyal to the party, he says to him, "Nah, we can't get rid of this guy." He says he's basically our only popular playwright slash author left that's not subversive to the party. So I think he saw him as a very important figure, so long as he was in fact loyal. And so I think he didn't want him to be. I think he wanted to make sure he had proof before he did anything.
Yeah, because he already messed up once with there was something else, like where they because they were gonna search the apartment and find the stuff, and he didn't want to further have to
Yeah,
like be stuck twice, like dig a deeper hole for himself and mess up a second time or something. Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting. I'm trying to think what was the other a few other tricks. I mean, obviously there's the one with the audience where, like, he tells her that he's her audience, and then when he sees her again in the interrogation room, he calls back to that line.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like nice script writing touches. It's really masterfully like written, for sure. It's almost more impressive that he wrote the script as his first script as opposed to like directing the movie.
Yeah,
But
no, that's
but
true.
obviously could be his 20th script, and it's the first one that was that good that he got it made. So
yeah.
I do think that this is one of those movies that in a lot of ways is kind of like The Siege, or one of those or a movie kind of like that, only this is better than The Siege, that just kind of deals with an issue that we weren't aware that we had to deal with when it came out. And I mean, this came out in 2006. The surveillance state, the you know the this whole idea of, I mean, the fucking title, looking into the lives of others, it's become astronomically more more important in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And this is a movie that actually dealt with it and didn't pull any punches. There's you have to, and by the way, the last line of the movie, Ulrich Muir saying, "No, this is for me," that will always rip my heart out, because it is a person just acknowledging that after, I mean, the first portion of the movie happens, is set a year before I was born. He finally says, "No, this is for me." What, like 10 years later?
I'm trying to remember. I think so.
I think it's about 10 years later.
It's 89, right? When the wall falls and stuff. But then it's 4 years later. Yeah, 2 years after the wall falls. Isn't it? Yeah, there's a few time skips there towards the end.
Yeah, there's like 2 at least.
Yeah. And I mean, there's such a beauty to that last line. I mean, living in socialism, living in a world where you're supposed to be living for everybody else except for you, and finally coming to the end of that movie and saying, "This is for me." That's kind of a big moment.
Yeah.
I'm being a bitch at the moment, so I'll
You're trying too hard to be one. You have to, but the yeah, and also kind of classy that they ended on a still frame. So it's a
yeah,
good touch because the whole like freeze in the moment in time,
yeah,
yeah, I think that was earned. Sometimes you can end on a still frame and you don't earn it, but
Absolutely.
this one was definitely earned.
I'm
That was
trying to
something.
remember. I
Yeah,
saw
go ahead.
something recently, and I wish I could remember what it was, but I was I it was not. I don't remember it being a good movie, and it ends on a still frame, and I scoffed like verbal, like audibly.
Yeah. I didn't want my movies like a still frame midway through the movie, and everybody thought the movie was over. I was like, no,
Uh
no, no, this is like kind of like a Rocky thing.
oh.
um, but in any case, yeah. Also, in some sense, I feel like this movie is one of those movies that's about movie making because it tells the story of someone that obviously does not relate to his subjects because he's an interrogator. And obviously, I don't know if he's had other missions where he was following people's lives this closely, but maybe this was his biggest mission yet, or at least it escalated. And it tells that the very common story, sort of like American History X, of the only way to connect with people, see something through their perspective, is to intimately be involved with them. So whether it's American History X is like you have a cellmate or something, or like a friend in jail
Yeah.
that's like a black, and you're a Nazi, a black person, and you actually start seeing their humanity. Then here too, like he starts seeing their humanity. Like he's just seeing that they're people, they're in love, they want to live their lives, and they're beautiful wonderful people inside and out, and how tragic it is that they don't get to live their real lives. Like, she can't be doing the type of roles that she wants to do, and he can't write the type of like parts, plays that he wants to write. And it's a waste. It's a waste of talent. It's a waste of so it's very related to the whole. That's what movies are about relating to others. But it's also the tragedy of like losing a storyteller, like all these storytellers that were in these communist regimes, and all the stories that were lost that we'll never get because they couldn't spend their career telling the stories they wanted to tell. They had to tell the stories that they could tell. And yes, sometimes you get like some interesting stuff out of that. You get an soy Cuba, and some sometimes there could be good art that comes out of communist circumstances.
Circumstances, yeah.
But for the most part, lacking freedom in what you could, the stories that you can tell, I feel like is the big tragedy, sort of. And yeah, and it's just powerfully illustrated in the fact that once he's that close to them and he follows them that closely, he just vicariously through them, he wants them. It's almost like they're the lead characters in the movie that he's concocted in his head, and he wants them to succeed.
That's what I was gonna mention, that actually in tandem with one other thing that I just thought it was a really good bit of production design, when it's not obvious and apparent, but when you watch it, they were very smart and careful about how they decorated and designed his house. The actor, or sorry, not the actor. She lives there too. So yeah, the writer and the actress, they're both artists, right? Their house is very warm. It's very decorated, and it's got stuff everywhere. It's got art on the walls. It's got things on the tables, coffee tables and end tables and things. It's very much like a reflection of who they are and the lives that they want to live and things like that. And then you see what's his name again? Weisler or Weisler? The main character. You actually see him first at his in an interrogation. Then you see him at work teaching some soon to be Stasi people, I assume. And then you see him at the opera, and you see him. Then the next time you see him, he's officially been put on the case, and he's observing and surveying their lives in this little like attic area above their house and stuff. So he's like listening in on their lives. So you don't see his personal dwellings, his house, until the first time we see him get done with a long day, and he's intently listening to this couple, this artist couple, who are so very much in love with each other in their little safe haven of this house that they've built for themselves. And then he goes home, and it's like, I mean, it reminded me of the houses in Equilibrium, where the entire society doesn't feel anything. Like his house is bland, and there is like nothing on the walls, and he lives alone. And so it's clear that his life is mostly about his work and stuff like that. So it all goes into kind of what Gil was just talking about. Like it really, without any words, without any dialogue or anything, it really helps tell a story of like why this guy just kind of latched on to these two people and started rooting for them, to the point where he started crossing that line and just was like, I'm going to try to actually help. He just wanted them to win.
I I think that's the best connection that I've ever heard from a good movie to a bad movie.
Are you referring to Equilibrium?
Yeah.
How dare you? Oh my God.
That's the second time
insulted.
that Jason says, "How dare you" to Matt, shitting on Equilibrium.
Oh my God. Is that really the second time? It's a great movie. It's really
very,
a
very
diamond in the rough. It's not perfect. It's got its flaws, but oh my God. Anyway, yes, back to this movie. Good movie, really good. Great production design, great visual storytelling. Loved it.
And I to concur with what you said, the you can also contrast the couple that's in love and has sex with him having that chubby, overweight prostitute that I guess makes the
yes.
rounds, and I guess the state pays for it.
Yeah,
But
that
and he
was
wants her to
odd.
stay. I mean, like, but that's the perfect contrast. Like,
It
he
is.
wants her to stay. He wants to have a female touch, and she tells like, well, next time book me for longer.
Yeah.
Because you only get that if you were actually in love, and
Yeah.
and he doesn't have that in his life, and luckily he doesn't take it out as a jealousy thing. Uh, he doesn't take it out on them. He really says that there's beauty to it. There's beauty that he hasn't experienced, but he's experiencing it through them. And yeah, and of course, like, and then he's heartbroken. Like, he's lost his own love when she when the actress, I keep forgetting her name, was Krista, right? When she runs outside and jumps in front of the truck, it's he's almost as heartbroken as he's almost more than the writer, because it was his mistake. Like, by him not alerting her in any way to the fact that he was gonna take away the typewriter, so the proof wouldn't be there. He killed her. Like, he essentially killed her. Yeah, it's a very tragic moment for sure.
Yeah. This is not all that important, but I just thought it was interesting. On the trivia, it says that all the props, the listening and recording equipment that they use, that the Stasi people use, was all actual equipment that they used at the time that it's portraying. It was on loan from a museum because the prop master had spent years in a Stasi prison, and so he just was like absolutely insistent that everything be authentic. He was just very passionate about the movie, apparently.
Holy fuck.
He said it says it specifically wanted that steam machine that they use to open letters that they use at the end. I don't know why that was important to him, but
yeah, I think accuracy is important in these types, especially if it's not a true story. You just want to be accurate about the specifics, about the history of the mechanics of it. But another thing I was gonna say before I forget, related to the two things, the surveillance too, but before that, yeah, also we thought about it, like me and Diana were talking about it, like if there's a poetic justice there with Krista dying, is that in some ways I guess it was also just meant to be, because in some ways she betrayed Drayden, for Drayman, she did betray him. I mean, you can't blame her for that. Obviously, she was under a lot of pressure, but she did betray him. So in some sort of way, the you got the better result, where the writer survived. He ends up being with another girlfriend actress after the wall comes down, and then he writes that book about the good that Whistler did. But then then the surveillance, I did find it a bit amusing. I when he starts like unearthing all the wires and entrapments that they put in his apartment, all I was thinking is like, how the fuck did they make all that disappear? Like, how did they match the paint? Like all these wires, like how did they get it under the paint and paint it over? Like it's just, it looks almost unrealistic. That's so many wiring, so much. Like, did they do this in a day? This looks like a week-long project.
I guess if you're, I guess with repetition, you get good at stuff.
Yeah, that's how good fascists are.
At certain things, I guess. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, I guess you match the paint and everything. Yeah, I don't know. You paint it over, and
I think some of it was underneath the wallpaper or something. He said, check behind your switch plates.
but that means that they would have to replace the switches, like replace the wallpaper, match the.
Well,
Where do you
no.
get the same wallpaper?
With the switch plates, I think that it's just a bug that's literally behind the plate. Meaning, like
Yeah,
right now, you can go to anywhere in your house and unscrew the plate, and
the
there's
plate.
space. There's a gap of space.
Oh yeah, that for sure. But the wires being all over the house, and then the paint coming off as he's peeling it.
Sure,
It
yeah.
just, yeah. Okay, so that's
I
a fair
do.
point.
This is beyond nitpicky. This is just stupid at this point. But when he has that conversation with the guy, and the guy looks at him and goes, and he kind of chuckles at him and goes, "You think you weren't surveilled?" He's like, "Look under your switch plates," or something like that. And he runs off and does that scene you were just talking about, where he pulls all the wires out. There was a little part of me. It's funny that you fixated on the way they were able to cover the stuff so well and paint it and whatever. And I was fixated on like, how many years has this been? I was like, this guy never needed to check behind his switch plates at any point. Like he just never had to like do any like work or check anything back there. Like, I mean, there's a lot of times I've had to like they'll crack for some reason, something will break, bump into them, or something's not working with the switch and I have to replace the switch or something. I feel like in the decade of time or whatever it was that between the two scenes, I'm like, man, this guy never opened up any of these things.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like they have to do this elaborate test to see if they're gonna get caught, to see if his place is wiretapped, and you'd think like, couldn't they just look?
Yeah. Well,
but I guess the idea is that they needed to find out without the government knowing that they found out, because if they start like moving equipment, then they get detected. But at the same time, don't you think that the whole whatever like smuggling thing trick that they had felt a bit, you know, just a bit like on the nose? Like if you're a smart government operative, you're like, I see what they're doing here. They want us to catch them so they'll know that like we got tipped off by the wiring. You know, it seems like a very not so subtle trick, but you know, either way.
I think that was actually pretty well covered. You know,
I think so.
What's his face with the W at the beginning of his name. He knew that they were fucking with him, and he decided not to report that they were fucking with him at that point in the movie.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Oh yes, that's true. That's a good point. I'm just saying that from their perspective, to do that trick is to think that they could trick someone that's eavesdropping. Like to think that that would be the only way to know that they're not being wiretapped is to do some smuggling trick and see if they get caught. Like, because if you're a smart government operative, you wouldn't want to blow your cover. You would let the smuggling go by, so they'll keep thinking, because you know that they'll know that that was what tipped you off. You know, but yes, in the specific situation of the movie, he was already on his side, so he, you know, yeah. I'm just saying from the perspective of the people trying to figure out
They were
whether they're
very
being
optimistic,
wiretapped or
I
not.
guess.
Yeah, exactly. But that's fine because they're not professionals. They're just, you know, they're thinking how like to, yeah. Anyways, But yeah, no, but it's almost like a flawless movie. By the way, it's rated 58 the all-time on IMDb, which is pretty high.
That is pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah, right below Wall-E. Yeah, I did give Wall-E a 9, so I rated it higher.
It says here that Sebastian Koch was actually playing Sonata for a Good Man on the piano in the scene where they filmed that.
Oh,
He practiced a lot.
Is there a musical piece that's called Sonata for a Good Man?
I think so. Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I assume so.
Yeah, no, this script goes deep.
Yeah.
really, he thought of everything. He really put everything into it, for sure.
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, at least we got to have one episode with Matt being emotional. He's usually the least emotional one.
Yeah.
you've all heard me cry, so fuck off.
It's okay, Matt. You are an oak.
We should just do an anti-communist movie every once in a while just to make Matt cry.